This is Mr. Rabbit. I've been taking care of him for about 5 years now. He was a little baby when I moved in here. He's actually living underneath here. And now I feed him every day. He's got a little plate of food there and just kind of comes and goes when he wants to. Hey, buddy. What you up to? Good girl. Anyways, so I want to talk about this pond a little bit. Oh, little baby rabbit. I didn't expect that. Do you have babies? What the hell? Okay, so that threw me off. So anyways, you can tell the pond is kind of greenish right now. I'm gonna go over kind of what you need to get a pond running, and I'm in no way a professional at this at all. This is just what I've learned as I've started doing this. So when I moved in here, there was a giant hole here, and they previously had a pond liner, and it was just filled with brush and stuff, and I wanted to restore it. Now you could either use a pond liner, which looks like a tarp, basically a black tarp. You want to get a good mill, and that's the quality, like the thickness, quality, whatever. Don't go cheap on that. You want to make sure it's a very good, expensive one. Or you could do the other option, which is have a preform, and that's what this is. It's just preform that you put in the ground. I had a neighbor who had extra parts of this that he wasn't using, and he gave them to me. And so I tried to do this as cheap as possible, and it ended up being very expensive. So I didn't pay anything for the preform. These could go for about, I think, $300 or so. Didn't pay anything for the barrel. Now I have 4 Comet goldfish in there. And we'll get to the type of fish in a second. So this is the setup that you basically need. Picking fish out with something this small, you are narrowed down to pretty much goldfish, feeder goldfish. I got Comet goldfish, which are feeder goldfish, and they're only about 50 cents a piece, but they're really beautiful. They look like koi. Mine are orange and black, and a white and goldish blend. So the fish only cost me $2 total. I got 4 of them because the space, they're gonna grow. They're gonna grow big. So 4 is about maximum to get. Now, if you look at the water, I don't know how much you could tell in the video, but it's very, very green, and they call that a pea soup color. What's happening is I'm having an algae problem. Now, first, I had a problem with algae building up in the water around the sides and sticking to the sides. And the way I got rid of that is if you see these little bubbles here and the bubbles over there, they're attached to these 2 tubes here that go into this little compressor. It's called an aerator, or some people call it a bubbler. What that does is it puts oxygen underneath the water. When you have a fountain, this circulates water for top level oxygen, but the bubblers will give you oxygen underneath the water. Now, not only is that good for the fish, but it also gets rid of algae. Another thing you need is plants, so you can barely see, but I have a pot there, and then I have some underneath. I'm trying different plants. I also have one over there. I have two in there. I just got a lotus for there, and the lotus is in here. And then I got some pathos, I think they're called, plants. Pothos, something like that. Those actually died off. I just had the stems and I had them fully submerged, and plants are just something I'm testing. So most of them didn't survive, but so far the water lilies are doing good and they're starting to grow. So you're gonna want, depending on the zone you live in, you got to be prepared for winter. So goldfish are really, there's only really 3 fish that'll make it through winter, and goldfish are, for a small pond like this, goldfish are pretty much the only ones that'll make it through winter. Koi will make it, but koi will get too big for this. They'll become like the size of almost this whole thing. They won't be able to move. So you need to think about winter preparation. Now you also need to think about putting a net like this over this, because what happened with me is eventually I saw raccoons dipping in here, and I have a problem with birds. So birds, raccoons, anything can go in here and eat your fish. Even if it doesn't happen in 3 or 4 years, it'll happen at some point. So you eventually, it's ugly to put a net over this, but you get used to it, and it's not that bad. You can see through it, and I just lift this section up here to feed the fish underneath it, and I move this rock, and then it becomes loose. And you know, the fountain is it's a filter. So this goes down into a box, and the box has 2 sponges in it, and it has 2 tubes. One tube leads to the fountain, and one tube goes over into the barrel, which creates the waterfall. Now I can also switch on the filter to turn one or the other off if I want to. So about once a week you should open up that box and clean the filter out. It's not the best system for filtration. A better system would be getting an actual filtration setup, which is about the same amount as this, but it looks like a shop vac, and you could pay anywhere for $100 to $300 for it. And it has bigger hoses and stuff for the filtration. Now the filtration helps with the color green that I have right now. Essentially what's happening, why that's turning green, is because I have no UV light. So all the mucky material that's inside of here, like all the fish waste, every time the fish go to the bathroom, or anything that gets past the net and settles in there, it builds up and it turns into like a liquid kind of mucky greenish stuff, which turns your water greenish. So the way to get rid of that is to get a UV light. Now the UV light is probably like, if you're looking at this, it's the size of like from here to here. And what you would do is, since this thing has a hose that comes off of it that feeds into there, I have one coming Friday. I'll split the hose in half. You put one hose inside the UV light, and then the other hose on the opposite side of the UV light, and feed it in there. Now what happens is, as this cycles water through the UV light will kill the bacteria, kill the algae that's inside the water. And then so it cleans the water out and clears it up. So I'm hoping by next week, I'll do another video, but I'm hoping by next week, this water will clear up and be crystal clear. Now plants help with the breakdown of that stuff. As algae gets broken down and stuff, the nutrients and stuff, the plants will feed off of that. And so plants are good to help get rid of algae. Also, you could see that I'm in direct sunlight, and direct sunlight will cause algae. And that's when I first started getting my algae buildup. And that's when I got the aerators, or the bubblers, you can call them. And that's what helped with my algae problem. But since then, the algae has started to break down. I can't see what I'm cleaning inside here, so I don't want to just clean and suck the fish up, or the snails. So snails are another thing you can get. But one thing you got to know about snails is they multiply by a lot. So snails will go around and eat the waste. They help clean up the pond and make it a little bit more cleaner. But you just got to be prepared that they breed at a pretty rapid rate. But they also seem to die pretty easily too. They'll stick onto pots and stuff, and you won't see them, and you'll accidentally crush them very easily and stuff. So I don't really mind if they breed too much, but that's basically what you need for a pond setup. Now, as far as cost, this pump right here, this filter and fountain thing, I paid, I think it was about $120 after tax and stuff for this setup, and the tube and stuff. The tubing I had to buy separately, which was another $20. The aerator, or bubbler, I paid about 50 or 60, I think, for that. The UV light that I have coming is around $50 or so. I found these lotus plants at Menards, which were $10 a piece. This net, I think, was maybe about 40, and that's all the extra net right there. So it actually covers a very large space. So all in all, I guess, I spent maybe $200 or so. Spent a little bit more money on a few other things that didn't work. But, yeah, it becomes it can become a pretty expensive hobby, because once you build a small pond like this, you want to build something bigger. And you want to get more fish, and you want to, once you realize all the equipment you need, you always want to go bigger and have more once you learn what you're doing. These things over here, they're called bio balls, and they actually go inside the filter. I'm doing a test right now where I'm trying the filter without those, because what these actually do, it's the rabbits under the porch. What these actually do is, like, when they're sitting inside the filter, they're supposed to collect algae and beneficial, like, bacteria, and they don't seem to do that at all, for me anyways. And you're supposed to leave the stuff on it that collects on it, but mine don't ever collect anything but sludge. And I think that's just because the size of my pond is so small, and the way everything is set up. All ponds are going to be a little bit different. Another thing you're going to want to get is a test kit to test the waters. You're going to have to make sure there's no ammonia in the water. That's the biggest thing. Test your pH level. Ammonia and pH, nitrates. You just really got to worry about ammonia, and that's really, you'll get ammonia if you have a lot of toxic buildup in here. So far, my water levels have been pretty good. My pH is pretty high, but if you have a high pH and it's stable at the same number, then I wouldn't worry about it too much. Be more worried about the numbers jumping up and down all the time, instead of where your numbers are kind of at. You want zero nitrate You want zero ammonia, that's for sure, because that'll kill your fish. And everything else you just kind of want at a stable level, because goldfish can survive some pretty brutal conditions. They're basically like carp, I guess you can call them. So that's really what I've learned so far from having this pond. I installed the pond last year, and I put fish in it about 3 months ago, and they're doing good. They're getting big, they're growing. For winter preparation, you're gonna want one of these bubblers to make the oxygen underneath the ice. It's going to create oxygen underneath the ice, plus the bubbler will kind of break the ice. Another thing you'll want to get is a de-icer. And what a de-icer is it's like a round disc, and the bottom of the disc warms up, and it'll create a circle in the ice, a hole. And what this does is, between the bubbler and the de-icer, creating a hole in the water, it'll give you oxygen for the fish, plus it'll make the gases from under the ice escape and come up out of the water. You don't want gases being trapped underneath the ice, because that'll kill your fish in the winter. So you could probably just use one or the other. I don't necessarily know if a bubbler will work on this to keep the ice broken up. I don't think a bubbler will be powerful enough, but I know I tested my de-icer, and I put the de-icer in the corner over the winter, and it kept the corner opened. So I know that'll work. So it doesn't hurt to use both. The de-icers could be anywhere from $50 to $100 to $300. I got mine off of Facebook Marketplace for $5. So yeah, that's really about it. Like I said, I'm still learning this stuff, and I'm in no way a professional or anything. This is just my knowledge as like a newbie, trying to tell other newbies stuff. Because what I've noticed is, talking to people who've had ponds for 30 years, they expect everybody to have the same knowledge as them. So when they talk in terms, you don't know what the hell they're talking about. You have to explain this stuff to new people, as if you're new yourself. So I hope this helps somebody. Like I said, asking a lot of people that have like a lot of knowledge. I know somebody that has a gigantic pond, and most of the advice they gave me was completely wrong. And it's just like, how does that happen? They've had this giant, pond for so long. How did they give me such bad advice? So, sometimes it doesn't seem to matter how long somebody's been doing this. Sometimes people have been doing this for a short time are smarter than people who have been doing this for a long time. So I'll end this video there.